Hey guys, what's up here? Mikey with 303 Mobile Welding, and today I'm bringing you guys another knowledge video. So we're kind of cranking these out because there's a lot of knowledge, and I'm trying to do a bunch of these so that way you guys can kind of understand the differences that I'm talking about, and basically getting more knowledge about the engineering side of welding. Okay, because I think that's something that a lot of welders actually lack, is understanding some of the basic concepts of why the welds do what they do and why you weld in certain modes and certain patterns. Okay. So, we're going to be talking about common mistakes with the D1.1. So, common mistakes. Mistakes for the D1.1. Okay? The D1.1 test. Okay? This is a basic test. This is what every welder should go out and get. You should be certified in 3G and 4G for D1.1 if you are structurally welding. It is a requirement in all engineering plans, and if you are not AWS certified, you are always running the risk that somebody's going to call you out on it, okay? Because you got to remember, the D1.1, the test is done to a destructive side, but inspections out in the field, more often than not, are always visual. So you can hide things with your cap. And that not necessarily is a good thing, because you're going to get called out on one day or another. If you take the test, it is basically reassuring those general contractors that you know what you're doing. Okay, that's all it is. Doesn't necessarily mean that you do. It's kind of like a card that you can show them and be like, hey, I went, I paid the money, I took the test, I performed, I did it. Awesome. All right, so common mistakes for the D1.1 is, and we're going to do with the backing strip. Okay, because that's the common one. So for 3G, 4G, back strip. Okay, if you are going to go and take your D1 test, you should really decide if you want to do an unlimited test or if you want to do up to basically 3/4 inch. Because in my personal opinion, 90% of the welds that are out there that are done on structural welding are not ever going to be to the unlimited test procedure. Meaning you're not going to be running that many passes. So more often than not, a 3/8 place test is a great way to go and get. If you're just trying to get in the game, trying to get your foot in the door, go take a 3/8 plate test. 3/8 plate, okay? So that's mistake number one, is people automatically assume they need to take the unlimited test. I was in the same boat when I first started out. When I called the testing center, I was like, hey, I need to get certified in 3G and 4G. And they're like, great. You know, you're going to do a 3/8 plate test. Do you need an unlimited? And I was like, yeah, let's do an unlimited. And they're like, okay, it takes a lot more time. And realistically, if this is your first test, you should just take a 3/8 plate test and pass it, and then later come back for an unlimited if you actually need it. I have not ever needed the unlimited qualification. More often than not, they just want to see you do a 3/8 plate test because you're not really welding anything bigger than 3/4. If you are going to be welding something that's bigger than 3/4 and you know it automatically and you already have jobs lined up, obviously just go and take the unlimited test. That being said, it's not really necessary. So, 3/8 plate test. Next thing is the bevel. Wow. I cannot spell today, guys. I am so sorry. Okay, bevel is mistake number two. Having too wide of a bevel gets you outside the parameters. Having too narrow of a bevel gets you outside the parameters as well. It also makes it difficult for capping. So you really want to stick to a bevel, and I'll do it like this. Okay, this is 22.5. This is 22.5. And this whole area is a 45-degree bevel. There's a lot of mistakes in there that people don't realize, that when they say, oh, you need a 45-degree bevel, you got to understand that's 22.5 on this side, 22.5 on this side. It is not 45 and 45, because otherwise you are going to be spending a ton of time welding a 3/8 plate, and your cap is going to have like 16 different stringers on it, and you don't want that. Okay, so mistake number two is putting the incorrect bevel on. Because you got to remember, some testing procedures literally just give you two pieces of plate and you got to bevel them yourself. Some already have it beveled to 22.5, and you're just going to clean it up, clean the rust off, whatever, wire wheel some of the outside, and grind a little bit of the back to put the backing strip on. Okay, backing strip, or let's do gap first. Okay, gap, 1/8, 1/8 land. Okay, when it comes to D1.1, your gap needs to match your land. You got a 3/32 gap, you got a 3/32 landing. If you got a fucking 5/32 gap, you got a 5/32 landing. Okay, the reason being is because the bigger the gap, the more metal you need to be able to quickly get into and fill that gap. So that's why you need a thicker land, is to help control that heat input. If you put a 1/16 land on a 5/32 gap, what's going to happen is that basically is going to cut all of that off. It's just going to melt it straight in the way, and it's going to look like absolute garbage. You're going to have a lot of undercut. There's not going to be enough. There's going to be too much heat input into that. So try to match your gap with your land. That's the biggest thing. Okay, that's mistake 3. Okay, so I'm going to circle the equal sign. It must equal, these gap and land must equal each other. If you don't, you're going to have a mistake. Next thing, rod selection. Okay, I would say the backing strip, but the backing strip is really easy. So on the backing strip, what's going to happen, okay, I'm going to draw this for you. In the backing strip, what's going to happen is, so we're going to do this as if you're looking down on it, or sorry, looking from the side, but it's flipped upside down. So you're going to have a plate, it's going to be beveled like this, and you're going to have another plate that's beveled like this, okay? And you're going to have your backing strip like this, okay, on it. You're going to tack from here to here, tack, tack. So your gap, wow, gap equals, let's say 1/8. Your landing, which is this face right here, so I'm going to put like this, landing equals 1/8, okay? You need to make sure that those line up, but you got to remember, you got to have that gap in there, so your backing strip needs to sit on the back side. You're going to tack it on the back side in 3 different places, right here at the front, 2 in the middle, 2 in the back. Okay, so because we're looking at it as if it was sitting on a table like this, we're looking into it, okay? So that's the best way to set up the D1.1, okay? So that's kind of a mistake, is that people put their backing strip on and they don't tack it down enough, and what happens is as they start welding, that backing strip starts peeling away from the plate, and you actually get these 2 plates kind of making this curve already that they're going to do with the heat input, but now your backing strip isn't really attached. Okay, so if you're going to be digging, if you're going to be making that weld in that area, and you're going to be taking that first land off on the right side here, and you're going to be filling that down, you want to make sure that that backing strip has got enough coverage over the back side of your plate that it's going to actually be able to suck in that metal and actually create more of a filler in that area. Mistake number 4 is rod selection. Okay, rod selection. 3/32, 1/8. Okay. Okay, 1/8. The code specifies in the D1.1 that you can weld up to a 5/32 rod in a 3G, but if you are taking this test as a first-time test, stick with 3/32 or 1/8. If you don't have a lot of practice running 1/8 and 3G at home, you need to be using a 3/32. Okay. Most welds, fillet welds, are going to call for like a 3/16 or 1/4 inch base fillet weld, which you can accomplish with both of these rods. Okay. 3/32 is going to take 2 passes. 1/8 you may be able to, with a little bit of basically whipping outside the puddle a little bit, you're going to be able to create that first pass fillet weld. Okay? So stick with rod selection. That's number big mistake. I'm going to put 5/32 on here, and I'm going to cross it out. I don't like for running 5/32 uphill. I know a lot of people out there, as soon as they see this video, they're going to be like, oh my God, Mike, you don't know what the hell you're doing if you can't run 5/32 uphill. Let me tell you something, guys. I like to make my welds clean, and I like to know that they're in there. So 5/32 has a tendency to blow out on you. It also has a tendency to leave a lot of slag. It also has the drip and the spatter on that thing is insane for a 7018 rod. And so I don't necessarily like running 5/32. Flat, horizontal, sure, great, awesome. We can fill in, we can cruise with that. But if I'm making a 3G or 4G overhead, I don't want that big glob fucking falling on me. So I'm gonna stick with a 1/8 or 3/32. So that's mistake number 4. And mistake number 5 is going too fast. So mistake number 5 is going too fast. When you're welding in a 3G position, you got to remember 7018 burns slow, it cools slow, it welds slow. That is the way that I like to say it. If you are running 6010, it fast freezes, it fast travels, it welds fast, okay? So, but with 7018, if you're doing a 7018 all the way out procedure and you have a backing strip, you're going to want to go a little bit slower. So that being said, don't use a lot of amperage if you don't need it. Don't be, packing amperage. Don't run super hot if you can't control it. Because running super fast and high amperages is great if you have practice doing that. If you're getting into welding and you want to take a D1 test, sometimes going slow and methodical and planning your drag, basically your drag upwards, is going to benefit you more than basically using a ton of heat to punch into that metal. Because you can still fill and get good welding if you run at an amperage that you control. Because the less amperage you run, and you still have to be within a range, obviously, but on the lesser side of that range, if you go a little bit slower, you can actually make a really decent weld. If you have on the higher side of the amperage and you run slow, you're going to get undercut. If you travel too fast, what's going to happen is you're going to get undercut. If basically, in all essence, when you are welding 7018, being slow is not necessarily a bad thing. Being slow on downhill in 6010, 7010, 8010 can be a problem, because what's going to happen is the magnetic field opens up on you. The magnetic field that's going to happen in the structural plate in 3G is it's going to blow out towards the top. So mistake number 6 equals not finishing. I'm going to put not finishing weld on strip. Meaning, when the plate test is set up like this, and you got your little backing strip. Wow. Okay, hold on. Let's redraw that. That was absolute garbage. Okay? Okay? Got your plates. That's obviously an exaggerated gap. Got your backing strip on there, right? When you're in the 3G position, and you start your weld here, and you travel up, okay, such as this, right? And you go up, and you stop right here. What's going to happen is all of the magnetic field is going to end on these lands. And eventually it's going to start dripping back, and you're going to see these massive cuts into here. Now you got to remember, when they take the test, they take the coupon, they're not going to cut this, they're not going to bend this section. But still, that being said, you want to finish out on the backing strip. So start at 1, go all the way up, end at the top, okay? That's mistake number 6, is not welding the full strip out, okay? They start kind of because they think, oh, it's a groove weld, I'm going to start right at the groove, and I'm going to drag into it. Because if you go too fast, don't have the correct amperage, travel speed's wrong, what's going to happen is you have no time to adjust that once you start welding. By using the backing strip to your advantage, by welding out here, you can kind of test it before you actually start into the groove weld. So those are the 6 mistakes for the D1 test, and I think that that covers it up. And I think you guys, that should give you guys some knowledge. So anyway, stay tuned for more videos, guys.